Yes, good afternoon again. Back after lunch for, I think, the highlight of every EVS. And the person is already sitting here because I think he's 93 years old now, but sharp as a knife. And I think he spoke at the first EVS, and now it's EVS 38, and he's still inspiring all people working in the EV industry around the world. Mr. CC Chen, can I give you the floor and give us a new inspiration?
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, dear friends and colleagues, I am very delighted, very excited today to share my humble view with you. We are all here gathering to promote electric vehicles globally. We must unite it. We must have united sound, united voice to the world. This is really a very exciting project, not only for the welfare of our generation, but also for the welfare of our future generations. If we look back from a history, in the 19th century, people during the whole life only can walk in the small village because no transportation means. Then Faraday invented motor. We have electric vehicles, but the battery does not work because the battery is lead acid, only small distance. Then Benz invented ICE, and in the United States discovered a lot of oil. ICE with the gasoline has dominated the world for the last century. It makes our traveling freedom, but not happy. Our mobility should be happiness and happy. And today, we come the electric revolution, make our transportation, electrifications, intelligent and connected, to make our mobility freedom and happiness. And we are now having two challenges. First challenge is electric vehicle, how to shake hands with the grid. Second is electric vehicle, how to shake hands with the cloud. That is the topic I would like to briefly share with you within very short time. I only have 10 minutes. She reminded me several times. So my topic is new journey of EV revolution and the importance of international collaboration. So I will start from the scientific iteration and the importance of developing AI engine. Then I will briefly talk what is the content of the new EV revolution and highlight several points: lightweight body, powertrain and charging system, battery and chassis, and then finally the importance of international collaboration. Okay, so scientific iteration and AI engine. We must have belief that the infinite possibility in the world of science. So we must continue to break through the limitation and have iteration. You can see we have from agricultural revolution, industrial revolution, and intelligence. And the most important is hypothesis. The hypothesis is very important. Then we make observation, analyze, and experiment. So second, today we must develop AI engine. And there we have to answer three questions. What is the philosophy of AI engine? What is the science spirit of AI engine? And what is the engineering spirit? Okay? For the philosophy is the integration of three words: humanity word, cyber word, and physical word. And then what is the science thinking? The science thinking, the science is answering why. Science is a principle. Science is rule. And what in the AI engine, what is the rule? There are three rules. One is large language model. Number two is digital twin. Number three is big data. So we must deeply find the rule, like the DeepSeek, you know. Then what is the engineering thinking? The engineering thinking, sorry. Can I go back to, yeah. The engineering thinking is to optimize. Engineering is answering how. we should optimize the three principles: large language model, digital twin, and data optimization and make economically valuable. From the science to engineering technology to the product and to the commodity on the whole world. Okay, so the new journey of electric vehicle, as I say, it is electrification, intelligent, and connected. Okay, and I have said we are two stages. Stage one is electrification. Electric will continue in stage two, but in the stage two, most apparently, as I expressed, how the electric vehicle can shake hands with the grid, and how the electric vehicle can shake hands with the clouds. And one vision. What is vision? From the intelligent connected car to smart transportation, from transportation to the smart city, from smart city to the smart society. Okay, so I propose I use this as intelligent integrated car. Because today, the electric vehicle, the automobile, has its own attribute, not the old attribute. Today, if you want to design electric vehicle, you must have three aspects. One is the conventional automotive engineering aspect, but that is not enough. We must put the energy aspect. As I say, electric vehicle must shake hands with the grid. So you must have the aspect. Yesterday, I invite Volvo. Volvo also has already this concept. He developed very beauty, very smarting challenging system for different applications. So we must integrate the vehicle with the energy system, and electric vehicle is electrification, intelligent, and connected. So we must also, the electric vehicle is shake hand with the communication. We must have these three aspects to address the new revolutions of the electric vehicles. So, okay, China has experience because China has goes through the three states: incubation state, growth state, rapid growth rate, three challenges: range anxiety, charging anxiety, intensive competition, three paths: battery innovation, chassis and powertrain innovation, charging innovation. To cut it short, that is to integrate the technology, policy, regulation, industry, market, and investment to achieve building strong supply and manufacturing chains. The chains, the environment is very important. The ecosystem is very important to produce high quality with low cost. The infrastructure, the supply chain is very, very important. Okay, so we have developed lightweight body. We have developed powertrain. This is my invention in the 30 years ago. I discovered how to design electric motors for electric vehicles and divide the powertrain. The powertrain, at that time, 10 years ago, I proposed the motor, the power electronic, and controller transmission should integrate 3 in 1. But today, it's all in one. Many can be integrated. So integrated, the weight reduced, the cost reduced, the volume reduced, and the performance enhanced. The noise increased, the noise decreased. Okay, so this is many invention of the powertrain, distributed powertrains, wheel motors. Okay. So as I say, we have to have friendly interaction between vehicles and the power grid. V2X include V2L, V2V, V2H, V2B, V2 microgrid, V2G, etc. And today we have built microwatt fully in the exhibition. I already see. So we should have different kind, from the small to big, from the low charge to quick charge to supercharge. Okay, it depends on the situation. Okay, so all right, and software today, software defines vehicles and the battery. Okay, we have gone through the battery revolutions, and today we are from the NMC. We want to kick off the cobalt, because cobalt is expensive and not safe. So the direction from the NCM, we will kick out the cobalt, become NM. Okay, and there are two directions of the battery. One is aiming for high energy density for the electric vehicle. We should mobilize, we should revolutionize our anode cathode in electrolyte, go to the solid state, and the other is for the power plant. For the power plant, we're not really aiming for the very high energy density, but we're aiming for the very safe, long life. Because in the power plant, the other equivalent is 30 years life. So it is a long life, safe and low cost. So we go from the lithium iron phosphate, we go to the lithium ferrous phosphate, okay, and put magnesium there, okay. So we should battery integrated with the chassis. This is another area. Within this structure, you can build new electric vehicles just within 1 year, because it's simplified. The battery is integrated with the chassis, so not only for vehicles. Now we have flying cars. There are many companies already announced the flying car will be available in China in the next year. Okay. So international collaboration is very important. You know, in the importance of international collaboration, global policy coordinations, technological partnership, educational and research exchange, industrial collaboration and supply chain is very important. So we have to share our research and development. We have to develop our standardization and globalization so everybody can use charging very easily. And we have to optimize our supply chain, particularly from the current geopolitical. We have to maintain our supply chains globally and connection with education and research, global research network, industry and academia partnership, student and faculty mobilities. So finally, just my 6 eyes motto. Every EVS, I repeat again my 6 eyes motto. Okay. First, we must put our eye here. We have foresight. Second, we must put our eyes here to learn from the history. The third eye is here. We must have holistic thinking, and then put it here. We are engineering. We can implement it. And then we put our eyes in the sea to see Europe and America, and here in the sea to see Japan, Korea, and China. You can see everywhere. You can see everything and everywhere. So what is the 6 eyes? The first 6 eyes is inspiration. Today we come out here is inspire each other. Then after inspiration, we have imagination. After imagination, we have innovation. But the most important is integration. As I said, electric vehicle must be integrated with the grid. Electric vehicle must be integrated with the cloud. Then we can implement that. But we need money. We need investment. Thank you so much for your patience.
Thank you so much. It is like a lesson in EV in 10 minutes, and I'm sure you are glad that you can download the PowerPoint after the EVS. But thank you so much for your inspiration, and you stay on stage because we're going to go to the next phase. There's some awarding to do. So there's all around the globe we see what cities are doing explicitly well in e-mobility. So we've chosen the city in every continent, and I would like to start with the award show now. Let's start with the Best City Awards in America, if you can put that thing on. Then I've got this city here, I'm just gonna read. This city is recognized as e-visionary for advancing electric transportation, including ongoing efforts to electrify their port, deploying heavy-duty charging stations and working to ensure its residents have access to rebates and charging for their electric vehicles. Our big congrats goes to Long Beach, California. Please give them a round of applause. Genevieve, oh, there you are. Just one short question, your reaction on this wonderful award.
Well, I'm not surprised because we chose Long Beach for the great work that they have done in their city, in their ports, and in their ongoing vision for electrification. And we do have a great video from the mayor to share.
Because he couldn't be here, but he has got his video.
Yes.
Let's hear what he has to say.
Greetings, EBS 38.
You can sit.
This is Mayor Rex Richardson joining you from the sunny Long Beach, California, USA. I hope you're having a fantastic time at the world's premier event for electric drive technology professionals, and I am honored to accept the 2025 E-Visionary Award on behalf of the City of Long Beach. Thank you to the Electric Drive Transportation Association and the World Electric Vehicle Association for selecting our city for this distinguished recognition. Long Beach is proud to be a global leader in sustainability, from the Port of Long Beach's ambitious climate goals and record investments in zero-emission infrastructure to our city's nation-leading climate action. We've joined the call to usher in green economy and build the sustainable city of the future, and we believe that starts right here. Since beginning to implement our climate action agenda, Long Beach has made great progress. Our port's diesel emissions are down 92% since 2005. We redesigned our Civic Center to be energy efficient, incorporating clean power technology. And now, as we look forward, our mission is to create a clear supply chain here in America's Green Gateway by transitioning terminal operations to zero emissions by 2030, on-road trucks by 2035, and move our city's fleet to all electric vehicle by 2030. These are just a few of the investments that we made in sustainability, and every single one of those investments matters. And we have a choice to be proactive and take on the biggest challenge that humankind will face right now, or kick the can down the road. And I know which choice that we're making because our children are counting on us to get it right. I'm encouraged by all of you and the work that you're doing in your industries and in your communities. And I look forward to seeing the progress that comes from this summit. So once more, I want to thank you for the honor on behalf of the City of Long Beach, and thank you for your time.
Yes, that is, I've been there, and maybe there's going to be a good reason to go there, I think, we hope. Okay, we're going to go to the Best City Awards Asia. This city is known for promoting electrification, intelligence and internet connected of transportation, with the population of electric vehicles reaching 700,000 and the average penetration rate in the last 6 months reaching 48%. Our big congrats to Suzhou City in China, and look who is receiving the big awards. Okay, and Mr. Chen, I know that the representative of Suzhou City couldn't be here, but he made a wonderful movie. Shall we have a look?
Yes, please.
Okay, you go and sit down.
On behalf of the Suzhou mayor, I express most appreciation to the Viva and to everybody. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Let's see what he has to say.
尊敬的马切伊马祖尔主席、陈清泉院士、女士们、先生们、朋友们，大家好。我是来自中国苏州的毛伟。首先，代表苏州市政府对第38届世界电动车大会的成功举办表示热烈的祝贺。大会将新能源汽车领域的最高荣誉以 Visionary 奖授予苏州，是对苏州在新能源汽车产业创新实践的高度认可，更是对我们未来发展的殷切期许。苏州向世界电动车协会致以最诚挚的感谢。苏州是一座拥有2500年历史的文化名城，苏州古典园林列入世界文化遗产名录，苏公苏作驰名中外。苏州也是一座工业大市，2024年 GDP 达2.67万亿元，位列全球城市第20位，集聚了16万家工业企业，产业门类齐全，实现规上工业总产值4.7万亿元，列中国第2，装备制造、电子信息、先进材料产业规模超万亿。苏州更是一座开放创新之城，拥有2万家外资企业，178家境外世界500强企业在苏州投资，累计使用外资1670亿美元。 常驻苏州的外籍人士约3万人。杜克大学、利物浦大学、赫尔辛基大学等世界名校在苏州招生办学。今年我们发起了全球产业创新合作伙伴计划，推动共享共赢、互惠互利。汽车产业是苏州的优势产业，新能源汽车是汽车产业转型升级、绿色发展的重要方向。近年来，苏州践行可持续发展理念，加快汽车产业电动化、绿色化、智能化转型升级，形成了完备的产业链。全球汽车零部件百强企业有50家在苏州布局，捷豹、路虎、宝马均在苏州开设整车工厂。2024年，苏州新能源汽车实现规上工业产值超5000亿元。同时，我们大力推动新能源车应用推广，全市在用新能源汽车约69万辆，建成各类电动汽车充电设施37万套，新销售车辆近50%是新能源车，新增公共交通车辆全部使用新能源车，绿色出行的理念深入人心。朋友们，苏州是历史悠久的人间天堂，更是活力迸发的未来之城。在此，我代表苏州向各位嘉宾发出诚挚邀请，让我们携起手来，以智慧、绿色、健康、安全为愿景，共同书写新能源汽车产业的新篇章。谢谢大家，苏州欢迎您的到来。
Wow, thank you. Will you give this applause to the mayor back? Yeah. Okay, then we go to the Best City Awards in Europe, and this city is a true pioneer in V2G technology. And maybe you already know? No, I'll just continue. With almost 6,000 semi-public charging points, and is on track to becoming the global #1 city in bidirectional charging. Do you already know? Because I want us to shout together. This includes the launch of the largest bidirectional car-sharing fleet with 500 EVs equipped with AC technology. They said, can we go with the whole team on stage? So I said, okay, because it's in the Netherlands. But please, a big congrats to Utrecht.
I need your love. I need your love. I need your love. I need your love.
Oh, look at them. And you take a picture with all of them, huh? Okay, thank you. So we don't have we don't need to have a movie because well, the mayor is not here, but Matthijs Kok is almost the mayor. So you want to have something to say about it?
Yeah, our deputy mayor was here yesterday,
mayor, yeah.
but she had to leave. She had to do something with the city council. So I'm doing. She gave me some words, so I'm going to say them. It's a great honor for us to receive this award. For the last 15 years, we've been working on zero-emission mobility, not on our own, but the whole team, as you can see here. We've done great efforts to get zero-emission mobility to our city. We've put 4,000 chargers on the street, public chargers available to charge all cars. We've also had help to do that from our operators, Equens, Vattenfall and Total, putting the chargers on the street. This is really driving forward the electric mobility in our city. But with this great success, there's also some problems coming. As Mr. Chan already said, we're getting problems on the electricity grid. Yeah. And the car has to shake hands with the grid. And we've been working on that, as you mentioned, putting vehicle-to-grid chargers on the street. And we had this great event earlier this month with the implementation of the first 50 Renaults charging fully bidirectional on the public chargers available in our city. And it's growing to about 500 cars, not only in Utrecht, but also Amsterdam, Rotterdam, Eindhoven, and I hope a lot of more other European cities. And we're also not doing that alone. I also need to thank WeDrive Solar, the operator, MyWheels, Stayed-in, the DSO, ELAT, Bart is over there, also very important, and the universities all driving together this innovative development in Utrecht. And now, a special thanks to this man, Aart Meijles, working from 15 years ago, starting the e-mobility in Utrecht, retiring in a few weeks. But so important for the development in the whole of the Netherlands, bringing together cooperation between all levels, national, regional, bringing money to the cities, really important to make us all work. Thank you.
But I think Art, look at Mr. Chan. He's 93. Why would you go stop working? You can still go for 40 more years.
Yeah, one final thing. If you want to, you're all welcome to come and see it in Utrecht, how we are doing this. So in November, we have the Polis conference, and back to that, also the final conference of the European project Scale. And you can learn a lot more about vehicle-to-grid charging. So please be welcome in November. And maybe, Chris, where's Chris? Oh, okay.
Chris left the building.
Oh, Chris left the building. Oh, he's over there. Maybe in 3 years, EVS, Utrecht. Well, we're going for that.
Enough for the promotional advertisement. So I would give them a warm round of applause. They already have had a lot. We're going to make a picture. Please, Mr. Chan, please, Geneviève. We're going to make a picture of all the winners. And in the meantime, I will ask Yuri to come on stage as well. So maybe if you can take the picture. Is there someone taking pictures? And one thing for the people that are in the room now, after 2 o'clock, we will also have a session on cities and e-mobility, so that will be very interesting. So I think, say Dutch cheese, and then we're all happy. Yeah? Okay. Okay, guys, thank you so much, and good luck with your cities. Good luck with the good work. Okay. We're not done with awards. Now we're going to go to the excellent papers that were presented here all around this EVS. Yuri van Mierlo, he's the professor at the Vrije Universiteit Brussels, one of the top universities in this field. And he will shortly explain a bit about those awards, because you don't get it like that. Huh? And then he's going to announce 4 winners of that. So take the floor, please.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. Do you know when the first EVS was organized? I'm sure that CC knows it. It was in 1969, the year that I was born, so I was not part of the organization. But in 1998, we organized EVS in Brussels. And I have the honor to be the scientific chair the last 10 years of EVS in Europe. So, this year, EVS, there were more than 400 submissions. But we want quality at our scientific conference. So we do a thorough review process. So every paper has been read and evaluated by 3 independent experts. And 80% of these more than 400 submissions have been presented the last 3 days, either in lecture, 190 papers, or in dialogue, 139 papers. And our authors were coming from all over the world, as you can see in this picture. So that's nice that we have an international collaboration. But traditionally, we have, of course, more people coming from the organizing country. As you can see here, we had a lot of people coming from Sweden. Next, we had Germany. Then we have the Netherlands, United States, and Belgium, and so on. I have a lot of data. I will not share them all with you because there is a next session that will start. But there is one trend that I like to show you, and that is this one. If you see, when we were in Stuttgart in 2017, a little bit more than 15% of our papers were related to charging infrastructure. Today, we have double as much. 30% of the papers that you can see in this conference are related to charging infrastructure. So that's a clear trend that we have observed. The conference is coming to an end, but it is not ending for the scientific world. The people that have published their papers in the proceedings here, they will have the opportunity to publish in the most interesting journal in the world on electric vehicles. So this is a scientific journal where you can find thousands of scientific publications, the World Electric Vehicle Journal. And the 100 best papers of this conference will be invited to resubmit an updated version of their paper for this journal. And that free of charge. It's an open access journal, so all the papers can be downloaded free. But normally you have to pay to publish there around 1,400 Swiss francs, so that's an equivalent of 1,500 euros, which is now for these best papers free of charge. But today there are 4 of them that we will put in the picture, because we have selected 2 best papers from lectures and 2 best papers from dialogue. So, who are these 4 awardees? Well, to select them, we made use of the review process, where clarity, originality, and reference were 3 criteria. And all these papers that have been presented have been ranked, and so the top 4 papers were selected. The winners will go home with a check of 500 Swiss francs and an additional opportunity to publish in our World Electric Vehicle Journal. So roughly another 1,500 euros. And that thanks to our sponsor, MDPI, who is the publisher of the World Electric Vehicle Journal. The first paper from lecture will be awarded to Professor Seung-Yul Chu. Thank you. I had the opportunity to talk with him after his very interesting presentation, and he informed me, he's coming from the Americas, and he informed me that he had to catch his plane back. So unfortunately, I cannot physically hand it over to him, but we will send his award, you can see it here, we will send his award to the US. The title of the presentation of Professor Seung-Yul Chu can be seen here on this slide. So he presented the work on new fast charging protocols, minimizing lithium plating based on electrochemical thermal life model for lithium-ion batteries. So the innovation in this paper is that when you want to manage a battery, normally we make use of electrical equivalent schemes, and that's good that we can implement in hardware. But a battery is a very complex electrochemical system. And what he brought forward, the idea is still working on that electrochemical process, but reducing the models so that they are also implemented well in hardware. And he is working for that reason together with the company Hyundai Motor from Korea. Then we go to the second winner, also from lecture. The second from lecture is Mr. Anders Nodelhoff, and I invite him to come to stage.
Give him a big round.
I need your love. I need your love.
Congratulations. Let's have a look at the picture.
I need your love.
Congratulations.
I need your love.
So you can stay here. You can stay on stage because we will take a group picture at the end. So Anders is from the Swedish National Road and Transportation Research Institute, and he has also still a part-time job at Chalmers University. He didn't do this on his own. He worked together with Borg-Warner from Stuttgart in Germany. And he made a very relevant publication. I know already him for a long time because he's working in the field, in the scientific field, on how to calculate the environmental impact of electric vehicles. There were a lot of discussions, and it is a science to do this in a proper way. And during this event, during this EVS, he had a publication or an analysis on the mining activities to get the material to build electric motors. So congratulations for that insight you brought in this conference. Then we go to the third award, which is selected from the dialogue sessions. And our third award winner is Rubia Singh. May I invite Rubia to come to the stage? Is she here? Yes, she's coming down. So Rubia, she's coming from the United States, University of Washington, and she presented the paper, Poor Reliability of Public Charging Stations.
Congratulations, it's great, this is your award. And maybe we should have a smart...
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
It was a very interesting publication, and when I was discussing with her at our poster, I was surprised. The first awardee was a professor. She's not a master student anymore, but the paper she presented was based on her master thesis work. So really well done to have a master thesis work being selected for this award. And then finally we go to the last prize award on dialogue, and that goes to Elena Malakatka and her team. I think there are more because the co-authors are also here. We have Mia Johansson, Emmanuelle Wallin, Albert Peterson and David Steen. It's teamwork. Elena is coming from Chalmers University, but she worked together with Polestar, with Vattenfall in Sweden. They presented right now, a half an hour before this award session, their poster in the dialogue session on vehicle to grid. And what is important in that poster is that it brings you a holistic point of view. So all the actors in the field of vehicle to grid are there analyzed, and all the steps that you have to take to get vehicle to grid really operational. It's a wonderful poster summarizing everything you need if you want to start and implement vehicle to grid. So congratulations for that.
Thank you. Congratulations to the whole team. Please, let's have a picture together here at the EVS logo, so that we can, if someone can take a nice picture. And I'm already going to ask Linda on stage. Yeah, it's going to be silent, so we have to sing ourselves, maybe? No, an ABBA song, maybe. No.
La la la.
I know you're good, Yuri. Yeah. Well, congratulations, and last applause for them. And I'm sure they are really happy when they get home. So we are already sort of preparing for this next session, and we were talking about the City Awards, and now we're going to take a deep dive into the cities. Eh? Yeah. And we also have got a Mentimeter. So if you want, can you fill in the last Mentimeter of today? And it says, do you believe cities are moving faster than national governments on e-mobility? Just take time to do that, because it gives you some input maybe for the panel you're going to lead now. And I just leave you the floor. Good luck.
Thank you.
Yep.
So it seems to be a lead for a yes. Maybe not so surprising. And I think that's a good sign then for having a panel on cities. Myself, I work with something called Green Transition Initiative, and we are based in Washington, D.C., but we are Swedish funded by Swedish governmental agencies. And we focus on cities, so I'm extra happy to be here to moderating this panel. And now, yes, we will have a keynote speech. We are just waiting for a mic. meanwhile they are miking him up, I would say that this session will focus on reducing car dependencies in cities and reclaiming the public space. It will also be about electrification alone, that it is not enough, which was also part of the paper. It's really a value chain or a big system change. And what it means for cities to lead the charge, what stands in the way. Now, I think it is my pleasure to introduce to you the keynote speaker of this session, Raed Kadri, Vice President of Strategic Initiative and Business Development and Head of Ovin. Welcome to the stage.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, everybody. And it's great to be here at EVS 38 representing Ontario in Canada. Over the past couple of days, I've enjoyed connecting with like-minded partners here in Sweden. And in every conversation, one thing stands out. The pace of change is rapidly accelerating, propelling us towards a future that is more connected, autonomous, and electric than ever before. And we have a pivotal opportunity to drive this change forward with cities at the epicenter of e-mobility transformation. I'm here to show you how we're doing this in Ontario, how we've transformed our cities into living labs, test beds, and early adopters, how we're unlocking dynamic urban environments for demonstrating and piloting emerging e-mobility solutions, and most of all, how we're growing our local economies, creating jobs, and delivering impact that transcends generations. A lot of you are probably familiar with Toronto, I hope. It's Ontario and Canada's largest city by every measure. It's our economic center. And in the mobility space, a pioneer in adoption of technologies that are driving the shift to electrification. But the reason that Ontario has been so successful in pioneering the future of mobility is because we are taking a pan-provincial approach to this work. It doesn't just happen in one city like Toronto. Instead, we combine the many strengths of Ontario spread across regions, building a strong network for implementing a cohesive electrification strategy. And it's through this network that we are empowering cities across our province to drive an all-electric future. To understand this, let's talk about what makes Ontario a global automotive and mobility powerhouse, and why global industry leaders have invested over $46 billion into our automotive sector in just the last 4 years. At our core lies a deep roots in automotive manufacturing. We have been building cars in Ontario for over 100 years, and we plan to do so for another 100 years. We're the only subnational jurisdiction where 5 leading automotive companies build vehicles: Ford, General Motors, Honda, Toyota, and Stellantis, and most recently, we've just added Volkswagen with their battery facility, PowerCo, in Ontario. They make cars, and we're just right behind Michigan in the US in terms of manufacturing output. We're the second largest producers of vehicles in North America. We're a little bit quiet about it, but we're trying to get a little bit less quiet about it. As we look at the next 100 years, we know that the cars of the future will be built in Ontario by Ontario workers. We know this because the path to electrification runs through Ontario's vast deposits of critical minerals, from cobalt and nickel to lithium, graphite, and more. Ontario is home to the critical minerals that will power the global EV transition and smarter and more sustainable mobility. We're also committed to this vision. We're so committed to this vision that the Ontario government has invested $500 million in a critical minerals processing fund to unleash the vast economic potential of our province and build our end-to-end supply chain. So with that, I'd like to take the opportunity to thank you all for being here and talk a little bit about this more with our panel. Thank you.
Thank you so much for bringing us to the electric future in Canada. You will join the panel,
Yes.
so please
Yes, please.
take a seat. And I will also bring up the rest of the panel. It's my pleasure to welcome Ben Prosaka, Executive Director of Electrification Coalition, Bernd Sverre Mehammer, Strategic Advisor, Mobility, It's Tomorrow, Lajos Baska, Vice Mayor at City of Debrecen, Tord Ringenhall, Head of Nordics at Candela. Please come up and take a seat.
Thank you. North American part. North American. Hi. Great pleasure.
Thank you all for being here. And what a great end of this 3 days to talk about cities. I would like to start with asking each of you some questions to get to know the panelists a bit. And I would like to start with you, Lajos. And you serve as the deputy mayor of the municipality of Debrecen, coordinating finance, public education, and urban development. What would you say are your main opportunities within e-mobility?
Thanks, and thanks for the invitation, and congratulations for the pronunciation of my name. This is a real challenge. Actually, it has a lot of opportunity, I guess. First of all, obviously, it is related to the climate. Obviously, we can reduce CO2 emission. And on top of that, we can lower the noise level in our cities. So these are very important opportunities in the eyes of the citizens as well. And on top of that, as I'm responsible for economic development in my city, I think it is a great opportunity for the economy as well. Because in my city, a lot of battery-related and car manufacturing-related investments came in the last decade. And on top of that, obviously, the charging infrastructure and also opportunities for the energy providers. So in these circumstances, I absolutely highlight the importance of the economic development opportunity.
Thank you. I also read that you are a member of the presidency of the Hungarian Boxing Association. Is that so? You're a boxer?
Yeah, that's correct, but I'm not a professional boxer. I'm doing it as an amateur level. But since my city hosts every year boxing tournament, memorial tournament, it is called the Bocskai Memorial Tournament. That's why I could become really a member of the Hungarian Boxing Association.
Thank you. Going from Hungary to the United States, to a national leader in the transport of electrification. You have been working more than a decade with Electrification Coalition and prioritized policies and actions to accelerate electrification in the United States, and including solving fleet transition, leading the EV-centered work for US DOT, Smart City Challenge, and creating EV roadmaps for cities around the US, and even being part of the first electric rental car pilot program in Orlando. But why the focus on cities, Ben?
Yeah, we've just long held that cities are a lab of innovation. There's oftentimes less bureaucracy that cities have to work through in order to take action. But I also think when you get into the idea of transportation and specifically electrification, some of the problems that exist with transportation are really sort of much brighter, if you will, in a city. And so it makes sense that cities would be sort of interested and invested in solving those problems so much more quickly. And then I think you start to think about things like fleet transition as a good example, where there's operational savings and there's other benefits that oftentimes aren't sort of thought about as the first steps, but cities really are excited about. So if you can save money and also solve air quality problems or GHG emission reduction challenges, it makes a lot of sense why cities would want to move forward and move faster.
What are the biggest lessons from those transitions?
Yeah, I think that one is just that cities oftentimes really can have a vision for being these sort of progressive places of action. I think that another lesson is that it actually has a lot of economic benefit to cities. And it can be everything from the average person in a city who, their sort of flexible income suddenly goes way up, right? If they don't have to worry about paying for gas, especially in some of the US cities that are really expensive. And so the other part is that access to mobility, and especially clean mobility, and in this case electrified mobility, is one of the sort of best indicators for upward mobility in a city. And so it starts to put everyone on a path to having a better life in those cities. And that's pretty exciting. So that, and then fleets. Like fleets are just a great example of the transition at ground level. And they start to normalize electrification, which I think for the average consumer is really important. So it doesn't feel so far away, and it feels like something that everybody should be doing.
And now a question that I think I'd be remiss if I didn't ask. It's quite a moment politically right now.
I don't know what you're talking about.
What are your reflections upon this and in relation to electrification?
Yeah, no, we have a bit of a challenge. I think it's two different answers I would give. One is, in some ways, and many of you here might have defined the reason and pathways for electrification is around GHG emissions reduction, which makes a lot of sense, but it's very divisive in the US. And I think in some ways the electrification has kind of gotten caught up in that divisiveness. And so it is very challenging. And right now, actually, the Senate and the House are actually debating some of our most important policies around the Inflation Reduction Act and the Bipartisan Infrastructure Law, and right now proposing to cut all of them. But I would say if you're thinking about action in the US and our neighbors to the north, the cities and states are still going to be there and demonstrating an incredible amount of leadership and opportunity. So don't give up on us yet, even if it feels like a challenging work environment, because I think we'll still be a big part of the global transition.
Thank you for sharing and also for pushing that there are opportunities on city levels. And I do agree with that. That's what we are doing as well. Going from one engaged person to another, Ben Sverre Mehammer, you have been political advisor and state secretary, and now you're applying your social and mobility insights to real-life projects. Can you share how you connect mobility solutions to everyday life for citizens?
Yeah, it's of course a very good question. It's because mobility is sort of the core of our lives. We only live once, and we want to spend as least amount of time as possible in a car or in transit. So mobility is sort of a necessary part of our life, which we want to decrease as much as possible, which leads to a lot of car use because the car is functioning very well on a lot of travels. And what we do as mobility planners is sort of trying to find ways to make other solutions at least as good as a car, so that we can sort of reduce the problems that car makes. And that's a very central part of the e-mobility challenge, because in Norway last month, 94% of the new cars were electric. So it's practically everyone. Every new car is electric. And we have used a lot of resources in making that transition happen, using economic incentives, permission to use bus lanes, free parking, a lot of things. And the only way that this gives meaning is if we can make the rest of the world sort of learn from what we have done, both what we have done right and what we have done wrong. And that's what I hope to share here.
But looking at maybe a bit broader than only the car, what future mobility solutions would have the most impact for cities?
I think in a medium to long term, it's the autonomous vehicles, the self-driving cars, which is coming to pick you up where you are and deliver you where you want to go, which is sort of, it's the first thing that really can compete with the private car. But then you have a very big possibility outcome scenario here from a private car heaven, where sort of every car trip becomes as double the length that it is today, to a very efficient way where you use integration between self-driving cars and public transport to really minimize the amount of transport. And how do you make these things happen together with the transition to electric mobility? It's a really interesting questions.
And going from that to something flying. You have a flying boat, I've heard.
Yes.
You will show it to us.
Yes. So are we starting a video?
Hopefully there will be a video.
And is it okay if I stand up?
Yes, for sure.
Yeah,
Be my guest.
I think that's better. And I'm just waiting on the video to start. So my name is Tord Ringenhall. I'm working with Candela. So I work where the cities meets water. It's been a lot of discussions on cars, but why should you still continue to congest the streets? So what we at Candela is doing, we're doing public transport, fully electric on the water. And you see a flying ferry. So we have a flying ferry that is commuting today in Stockholm between one of the suburbs called Ekerö and the city center. By using the hydrofoil technology, we're reducing the energy need to drive the boat with 80%. And being fully electric, that means we reduce the carbon emissions per passenger transported with 97% versus the current state-of-the-art ferries. And this is actually my own commute. So I'm living on Ekerö, going into the city center of Stockholm more or less every morning. In this video, you see we're approaching the city center of Stockholm, the city hall. And of course, we're following what the automakers are doing, and we're riding on their technology. So the charging we're using is a normal car charger. We use 2 cables to charge, so we get some speed. But it's a normal on-the-dock fast charger that we can charge our ferry with. And as you see, this is not a prototype or anything. This is in operation today. So if you happen to go to Stockholm during the summer, check out SL's homepage, sl.se/Nova. There you find a timetable, and then you can take a tour for 43 Swedish SEK, exploring how pure electromobility can look on the water as well. So one of the key benefits using the hydrofoil when we're taking off, as you see the waves behind the ferry, that we're not producing any waves, meaning we get an exempt from the speed limit. So we're actually flying past the speed limits in the city center. And we can reduce the travel time with almost 50%. So the commute on the ferry can be done in 25 minutes. All other means is roughly 1 hour. So by not only being clean and a pure electric, we're cutting the travel time as well. This is where we dock in Ekerö. The channel that we're entering in here is shallow, so we raise the wings going in there so we can go all the way into the shallow waters as well, with a depth of only 1.2 meters when we're going in there. And it's a fairly small ferry. Normally ferry are big heavy machinery. And what we want to challenge is to use a smaller size that is easier to electrify, and I see it as more or less like a bus on water instead of a massive train. So with a fleet of these, we can manage the same amount of passengers, adding more departures, having a better service to the citizens, and have a better connection for the cities and the people using it. So once again, I invite you to come to Stockholm and explore it.
Thank you. Thank you for showing an example of how different types of vehicles can be integrated to the transportation system in the city. And it's great that it's integrated in the public transportation system, so you only pay with your normal fee. Now going a bit further ahead then, looking at cities, what are the key factors accelerating or hindering the pace of urban electrification? And I would like you all to reflect upon this, but starting with you, Red.
Yeah, I think, for us, and I'll talk in the Ontario, maybe Canada context, we're a jurisdiction that makes vehicles. And so what typically happens is, since we produce vehicles, we buy the vehicles we produce. And right now in Ontario, in our government, the government back in 2018 took the approach of focusing on attracting vehicle mandates that were electric vehicle mandates, and that I spoke about the $46 billion in new investments. That's in electric vehicle mandates, and it's also battery production mandates as well, leveraging our critical minerals and all the other resources we have in Ontario. And so I think the availability of more electric vehicles will certainly support the cost coming down, and then, of course, the increase in purchase of vehicles. But then the other piece of that is also, of course, charging, a very reliable and robust charging infrastructure, and that's something that our government is just invested $180 million, as not the end, but we're going there, and we'll be taking on a bigger role in making sure that Ontario has a very robust charging network to support that. So we're looking at it at two ends of the spectrum. We're looking at it to make sure we make the cars in Ontario that will be built by Ontario workers and then hopefully purchased by Ontarians, and at the same time making sure that we reduce range anxiety by making sure that we have a very robust and well thought out strategically located charging network that will remove any barriers to that. The other thing that we're doing quite a bit is in the interim, and I didn't get into too much in my speech, is we've taken this approach where when we launched this initiative, the Ontario Vehicle Innovation Network, the big focus was how do we seek the economic opportunities that present themselves in this, this vehicle disruption, this technology disruption? First, starting with connecting autonomous vehicles and very rapidly transitioning to electric vehicles. And one of the things that we did is, so we figured if we leverage our technological prowess in the entrepreneurship and the startups, and the fact that we're the second largest tech cluster in North America, and we then support these entrepreneurs and these startups and these small and medium-sized enterprises that are bringing on new technologies by tapping our municipalities on their shoulders and saying, can you provide the infrastructure and the roadways? Because one thing industry doesn't have is pedestrians and transit and very unique transportation scenarios. And everybody's ever been in Toronto, you'll know it's a very interesting driving situation there. But by giving that opportunity through municipalities for our companies to try out technologies, that also further supports the adoption of these technologies and as we move towards electrification. So I think, I look at everything in a very positive manner, and I think we're chasing after the economic opportunity, but we're also looking at how we implement these technologies and these approaches within our communities and support our entrepreneurs at the same time so that we make the life of Ontarians better, but we also create jobs and seek economic opportunity as a result of it. So that's, I think, the opportunity there.
And jumping over the border to you, Ben?
Yeah, I think there's a couple things that have been profoundly important. One is we sort of what I would refer to as electrifying networks, but in this case, we're creating cohorts of cities with the idea that there might be leaders, cities that are moving much faster than others and laggards, and there's just a transfer of knowledge that needs to happen, but maybe mixing in a little bit of co-opetition. So getting cities to want to compete with each other to see who's the sort of most innovative, and having EVs be a part of that sort of opportunity for innovation. And so that's proven to really create this sort of leapfrog effect, I think, where you get the Long Beaches who just won the award, but competing with cities like LA, but then also jumping even to the other side of the country where we get places like New York City, who's had one of the most dramatic fleet uptakes in the country. And I think those examples start to have this sort of wave effect, if you will, across the country. The other thing is solving challenges that can exist for cities. And so one example is we created an aggregated purchasing program called driveevfleets.org, so everyone can use it. And it's creating sort of resources that can work at scale. And so one of those versions of the resources is a rapid fleet assessment. So sometimes cities get bogged down in the details and complex telematics and years of paralysis by analysis. And so our tool basically takes all the data in and then kicks it out back out in about 5 to 7 minutes and basically shows a profile of here's all the vehicles that can be replaced right now, where an EV meets the duty cycle, what the cost would be, where you might need incentives for some of those fleets to transition. And then even what are the value benefits, right? Air quality, GHG emission, because sometimes cities are going to have different reasons and rationale for why they're doing it. And then, of course, answering that really important cost question, so the total cost of ownership question. And then removing, like, some of the things that I find with cities is, if you don't make it easy, then they revert to the status quo. And so it's also, this matches it up with the current vehicles that are available. And it's not just light-duty passenger vehicles, because sometimes that's all we talk about. But it's, it's the Chargers, it's the light-duty all the way through Class 8 vehicles, so semi-trucks, et cetera. And it's really profoundly moving the needle forward. And then on the aggregated purchasing side, it's making it so that if I'm a city and I want to go out and purchase these vehicles, I don't have to do an RFP on my own or a tender or whatever the language is that you might use in your country. And instead, you can buy it off this master contracting. And so it reduced the soft costs of procurement and makes it much faster, and also has this sort of technology validation. So you don't have to worry about, am I buying the right charger from a company I'm not sure if they're, how effective they're going to be. These are sort of pre-validated technologies that really simplify it for cities. And so those are some examples of getting rid of those barriers and then using leapfrogging to kind of move cities faster.
Ben, do you want to add to that?
Yeah, I think the key is for Norwegian success in making the inhabitants wanting to buy the electrical vehicles is, of course, the political means that we use, the exemption for taxes, be allowed into the bus lanes, cheap parking, that kind of things. But in a sort of cooperation with the market, and I would especially say Tesla has been very important for the very rapid transition to electric vehicles in Norway. So it's sort of regarding the political situation in the United States, knowing that Norway has been so important for Tesla and Tesla has been important for Norway. No, it's a picture there that's quite confusing. But I think that making Norway a very important market for electric vehicles have been important for the OEMs, especially Tesla. And Tesla's response has been very important for the Norwegian car buyers to choose electric vehicles. And that kind of cooperation has been important to make this success possible. And then the question is, has it been too successful, and should we have done a bit less on some areas?
And Lajos, how is it in Hungary?
Well, we are quite price sensitive in Hungary, so definitely I agree with the previous panelists that price is very important, especially in a relatively poorer country like in Hungary. So obviously if we give people some tax relief or exemption of different levies or taxes, then definitely is a key. Obviously, on top of that, the local governments can give also free parking, for example, for residents, and any other benefits like going through the bus lanes. It can be also speed up their transportation, so that these are also benefits. On top of that, my city is quite specific because the technology came to the horizon. So if people are aware of the technology, they are working in battery manufacturing plants. If they are working at, for example, the BMW plant, where actually BMW is constructing their newest plant in Europe in my city, and we produce 100% EVs. So therefore, the technology, maybe it is related to the education as well, and then probably you will prefer EVs as well. And beyond EVs, obviously, electrification is not about EVs. Obviously, we have to focus on electrification via rail as well. From the suburban areas, we have to make electrified all of the railways, and we are aiming to create parking and ride systems. And if they park their cars there, then they can go to the city center, for example, by electric buses. So we can accelerate these phenomena in this way. Obviously, there are some aspects which can hinder the electrification, like the electrical system. In Hungary, we are not prepared 100%. If everybody has an electric vehicle, probably the electrical grid cannot bear this load or this charge. So therefore, we have to develop also the electrical grid. Obviously, it is related to the solar panels as well, so everything is related to each other. But I guess we have some tools how to accelerate the whole system.
Thank you. And Tord, would you like to add as well?
Yes, as one of the supplier responding to the RFPs or the tenders and so on, one of the wishes I have to the cities is that they try to specify the need instead of the solution. I have one example here in Gothenburg, buying new electric ferries to the southern archipelago, where they more or less taking the old style, said the specification should be 150 passengers and a timetable. So what if we can do that with a smaller vessel in a shorter time, but with more units? Would that be okay? But we are disqualified because we don't have the number of seats on board.
So the capacity should be defined in another way.
Yeah, passengers per hour or per day or something like that, instead of saying this is the solution that we want to have. And, you know, electrifying big, heavy stuff is difficult. There's a big shipyard in Norway going bust because they didn't manage to meet the criteria in a similar tender. So bringing new technology to cities, it's hard if the people working with the procurement doesn't know that you can solve the problem in other ways. So specifying the solution is not ideal when you're disrupting, is my view.
And also, I would like to ask you, Bernd, being into the mobility and urban system like a design as well a bit, how can cities balance between the push for electrification of cars, but also independency of cars, equality perspective, so to say?
Yeah, I think that's the key question for cities. There's two challenges with electrical vehicles. One is that it's the wrong people who's buying them. You know, new big electrical cars is expensive. It's rich people buying them, and most people doesn't want their tax money to be used to reduce the price of the cars of rich people. And the second problem is that they're used way too much. You know, if you buy a big electrical car, you want to use it all the time, and it's very cheap. So you can, in case of the variable cost. So what we see in some analysis we have done from Oslo is that if you exchange all fossil cars in Oslo with electric vehicles, the mileage will increase by 20%. And 20% in a city, it's that means chaos. So you can't do that. So what we need to do, and I think what we haven't done that in Norway, and that's what you all should learn from us, is we need cities to do the bold move to say what we want is to make the transition not only from fossil to electric, but from fossil private cars to electric shared cars. Because then a shared car replaces around 10 private cars, 20 tons of CO2 to produce each car. So that's massive. And we also know that approximately 70% less driving for those who share cars instead of owning them. So that's a very important part of the solution. So if you, from the city's part, can instead of building a charging station for private cars, build them for shared cars. Instead of reservation of parking spaces for private electric cars, reserve them for shared electric cars. And then you will have a solution that is also making the societal part of the electric vehicle policy much better.
Yeah, and I would like to follow up on that, like reclaiming the urban spaces, because cars takes up the streets and a lot of space. So how is that in Debrecen?
Yeah, definitely we have to reclaim public spaces for the residents, and that's our one of the main targets as well. In the city center, we reclaimed a lot of territories for them, especially giving them for pedestrians, for bikers. It is very important. On the other hand, we have to make available spaces for individual cars as well. As I told you before, we created it especially at the edge of the city, creating parking and ride systems, and then especially for the commuters, they can come inside the city center. That's definitely a key. And on the other hand, electrification is also about e-bikes, not only EVs. So we have to also develop the bike lane system. In the past decade, from 80 kilometer long, we could develop it more than 120 kilometers long. So, and this is eligible almost for everybody, almost for normal riders, also for electric bikes. So I guess it is more eligible for maybe for the poorer level of the society. And in our eyes, then we can reclaim these public spaces back to the residents.
Yeah, so that sounds like a good plan to make it electrified for everybody or reclaim the city by implementing a broad spectrum of solutions.
Absolutely.
So, like, this is a big question, but what are some of the most innovative and effective EV strategies being implemented by cities worldwide? And I think it's up for you, Ben. Can you solve this?
I don't know if I can solve all of it. I should call it my staff bought me shoes for this event, so maybe that'll help. So I think one answer is to simplify the process, right? Transportation is incredibly complex. Transportation challenges are complex. We have many different things we're trying to solve all at once. But in many ways, EVs, they're just a car, or they're just a truck, or they're just a bus. And so I think sometimes the EV advocacy community and sometimes the industry, frankly, because they're so capable, right? They can manage charging and they can do all these things around matching up with other things, like how to support grid resilience, et cetera. It can feel overwhelming. And so I think we have to make it something simple, which is sort of to start with, it just will meet your need. It works just like any other car, except it's better technology, it moves faster, and look at this cool thing, it actually doesn't have emissions out of the tailpipe. Like, isn't that great? So just making it simple is one part. I think the other thing is that we need to be lifting up more of the examples of the successes, which I think we're as a community much better at. But the headlines aren't great from a press perspective, and so I think sometimes it's just those small examples of the things that have happened that have gone wrong. And any new technology has problems, and as it's scaling, it's going to have some challenges. But I think to some degree, it's okay to say yes, there are some things that haven't worked perfectly. But at the end of the day, circling back to this central thing, which is EVs are no longer a question of if, they're just a question of when. And these small things that have happened, and many of those stories that people talk about often are just stories of the past, and so kind of need to move on. But more specifically, I think there's a couple examples of things. One is historically governments have a tendency to focus on capital purchasing and then operational costs, right? And in reality, EVs are bringing those two things together. And so if we could get central, city governments to think about the idea of this total cost of operation and even maybe reformatting their budgeting process, it would really start to move the ball much faster in this. And then I'm going to be a broken record, but this fleet transition piece is just proving to be very valuable. Not only can you do it at scale and very quickly, but it's also something where fleets have the best understanding of this total cost of operation piece. And then it really normalizes electrification for consumers. So it becomes this thing where there are charging stations and there are vehicles everywhere, and people see those as working very well. And not only that, but every single driver of those vehicles becomes that next generation of advocates. And so it makes all of the policy work faster. And then I have one last thing. It's a little bit of my motif is to say one more thing. But it is sort of to figure out how do we get this out of the politics. Like, it's become this thing where it's become a political issue instead of a technology issue or instead of an industrial issue. And I think the more that we can change that narrative around the other broader benefits, where it is just better technology and it's just another example of society advancing, the sooner it starts to become about what the benefits are instead of an argument about climate or not climate or any of the other things that sometimes get caught up in the debate.
Yeah, and I think it's a bit like storytelling is part of making it something you can see, you can feel it, and then maybe you understand that you can have another way of expressing what you want in your RFP. And in this way, we actually did a full electrified construction site in North Carolina. And when we were searching for the construction site, cities said, we didn't even know that there exist electric excavators. So we also need to close that information gap as well, I think. But how is it in Canada? If you would answer the same big question, what are the best EV implementation strategies in the world for cities?
I'm going to be very not Canadian about it. I'm going to talk about ourselves, unfortunately. but I'm from Windsor, Ontario, near Detroit, so I got a little bit of American flavor in me too. You know, I go back to it, like and it's kind of what you said a little bit, take the politics out of it, right? And so at one point it was a bit of a political thing, but I think it's really become an economic thing for us. We make cars, which is important. The cars of the future, and I like the way you position that, and I would say the same thing. It's no longer are we going to have electric vehicles, it's just when. And up until, you know, the auto sector, and again, I come from a city where we make cars too, the auto sector is tied to the economy. And right now, when people don't have money in their pockets, they're not going to pay big dollars for a car. In general, the two biggest purchases, at least for Canadians, probably others, house, car. Right now is not a time where people want to dish out money for those things. But it'll pass, and we will go electric, and we will build cars in Ontario. So we looked at it from an economic perspective, and I think that actually made everybody say, yeah, electric vehicles are, you know, there's still a few people here and there, but in general, the people that you would expect to say, no electric cars, are saying yes, electric cars because it's tied to an economic advantage for Ontario. It's tied to Ontario workforce. It's tied to the economy and job creation. And now everybody's become a believer, and everybody wants electric vehicles. And our municipalities we're working very closely with them through the Ontario Vehicle Innovation Network. We have this network all across the province that talk about innovation, talk about technology, talk about transformation, talk about where we go forward. But again, it's centered around how do we help local economies grow? How do we support entrepreneurs and startups to develop new technologies? How do we get them to the global market? But then what ends up happening is they talk to their neighbors, and they talk to their politicians, and they talk to their city councilors, and they talk to them about the things that they're doing and how they're changing things and how their technology is going to leap things forward. And then all those people become believers, not because of the political aspects of it, but because of the actual impact that it has to a community, how the jobs it will create the community, the fact that the citizens of the community will be using these technologies and it will be supporting local economies. And so that's really the approach we took. Focus on economic development, focus on the opportunity to grow our economy and keep people employed and continue to push our sector forward. And then what ends up happening is work with our municipalities to try these technologies out, and then adoption happens through that. And now, again, we're adding that piece around making sure that we have the most robust and globally leading charging network so that we remove those last little bits of people that have the range anxiety to say, there's no more excuses. We built the cars, they're built by your neighbors, they're great cars, they're technological platforms, you've got the leading edge technology on it, and guess what? You don't have to worry about filling it up because we've got chargers everywhere, and we'll continue to do that.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. For the same question, may I ask you to give dare to ask you to make a flying answer?
Yeah, of course. One of the things that I believe we can start utilizing is the waterways, because they are not used. We have congestions on all the streets, so why add more cars? Why not move traffic to the waterways in a clean and a smart way? Because then you can cut travel times, you can make people happier, you can talk about the value creating. And cutting a travel time with 50% is doable in most cities today by using the waterways, having the shortcut cross the river, cross the lake, or whatever it is. So that's my answer to the question.
And I think it leans into the next question about collaboration. How can these challenges be overcome through collaboration between local governments, industries, and communities? And I'd like to start with you, Lajos.
Well, we are very fortunate because, as I mentioned, Debrecen becomes one of the center of electromobility, I guess, maybe even at world level, since BMW is constructing the newest plant in my city, and besides that, CATL, the famous Chinese battery manufacturers, is investing there, which investment is amounted to 73 billion euro investment. And EV Power, which is also one of the leading battery manufacturers, also investing in my city. And besides all of these investments, there are a lot of suppliers for them. So therefore, as I see, a lot of members of or players of the battery manufacturing and EV segment came into the city, and they already offered us how to collaborate with the citizens, how to collaborate with the educational system, because I think this is a key to integrate into the society. So definitely we will take into account their views, how to do so, and I hope that all together we can integrate smoothly all of this new technology into the city.
Thank you. And then, by that, you also secure the talent for the production, I think.
Absolutely, for the production. And besides that, as I told you, the education is also key. If we introduce the new knowledge even at mid-level, so to the vocational system, and also at the university where, for example, from the 30,000 students in my city at the university, more than 8,000 is studying some STEM subjects. So therefore, obviously, they are very open to get to know the technology. And then after they graduate, I guess they are much more interested in integrating into the society or together with their families. So this is how I see.
Yeah. Do you want to add to this? To the question around collaboration?
Yeah, I mean, it's an old adage that partnership is the new leadership,
Yep.
but I do think that it's really true. Some of the things that we've done in cities is you sort of bring together the full ecosystem. So you bring together the utility, you bring together the city planning policy, so the streets people, you're bringing together the housing folks, you're bringing together the key accounts that are represented in those utilities. And part of what happens is you're able to create a sort of shared vision around the benefits, the shared benefits, if you will. And then it leads to things like, the utility can actually act as a messenger to their every single utility member or payer around what are the benefits and why is transportation electrification something that's being prioritized in the community. And I think that's part of what helps lead to that sort of scale factor in cities across the country and across the world, frankly, is figuring out how to bring those partners together and have them see that shared value benefit.
Thank you so much. When you have fun, time flies. It's not only about the time as well. And so our time is actually up. But I think collaboration is the new leadership. That's a good one. And when it's headwind, we continue. And with that, I would like to just thank you for the panel and join me and give them a warm applause.
Warm applause as well. Thank you so much. Great panel.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for my shoes.
Wow, it's 3 o'clock.
Thank you.
We've nearly reached the end of these 3 days, jam-packed.
It is. It's almost a wrap.
Absolutely.
But not yet, huh? There's something to do with the car. We're going to do something.
Yeah, we've got
really
some special
like
surprises
huh?
coming,
Yeah.
for sure.
And who of us is going to get the car then?
I like the color, but you're dressed.
I think
You're ready for it.
I have to drive back to the Netherlands. Right? What are we going to do now?
Well, now we're going to start. We've got a few speakers to hear from. We're going to start by hearing from someone virtually. As many of you will have seen around EVS, we've had people from the European Commission walking around, speaking at stages, especially from DG Move, the part of the European Commission leading on transport policies. And it's a pleasure that we're able to welcome the Director General of DG Move, Magda Kopczynska, to join us virtually to provide us with some guiding remarks to take forward with us as we close out EVS. So hopefully, we're going to bring Magda onto the stage.
Yeah, on the Wednesday afternoon. Is she in Brussels?
Hi, Magda.
Hello.
Brilliant. Thanks so much for joining us, Magda. We're going to leave the stage now, and the floor is yours to talk to our guests. Thank you for joining us.
But can you, good afternoon, can somebody confirm to me that you can hear me? Because I am blind to that. I can see the stage and that's about, yes, I can see you look, voila.
We can hear you and see you. Perfect.
Thumbs up, perfect, super. And I was listening, unfortunately, not to all of the closing panel, but to parts of it. And the partnership is new leadership I take forward also for my daily work. So thank you so much for that. And really sincere apologies that I can't join you today for this year's edition of the Electric Vehicle Symposium. I will try to do the closing. I'm just a bit worried that I have a lot of things that I want to say, but you are in a very comfortable situation. The moment you don't want to listen to me, you just cut me off. I will not know. I will deliver my speech, and you will not die of boredom. But let's see how it goes. There was also another word that I picked up from one of the panelists. This question of being a believer. So I just wanted to reassure you that I am one as well. And there are many reasons why I am, and I think the spirit of innovation, ambition, and collective determination that has been throughout that conference very clearly demonstrated is what we need if we want to succeed in the electrification of road transport, but actually also between us in many other transport areas and beyond. And again, I know you have been talking about it for those 3 days, that we in Europe, we are going through a transformation in mobility. In that context, transition to zero-emission road transport is actually no longer a future ambition. It used to be a couple of years ago, but it is happening now. In 2025, we passed the threshold of 6 million registered electric vehicles, with over 4 million plug-in hybrid vehicles in addition. And that year, EU will most likely pass the threshold of over 1 million publicly accessible recharging points. I could stop here, but I will not. You've given me the floor, so you have to bear with me. Because while these are good numbers, while that presents quite a positive perspective so far, we are still there when it comes to challenges facing manufacturers, operators, and consumers alike. In order to completely transform Europe's automotive value chains, we need to go through quite a few big things that need to happen. And also, let's be honest between ourselves, the price tag of many vehicles is still too high for many consumers, particularly when it comes to second-hand markets. So what we need to do, and I know you have been answering all those issues already, so apologies if I'm repeating things that you all know, but I think it's helpful that I state that also we are aware of that. We do need to work on strengthening the electric mobility ecosystem with a particular focus when it comes to scaling up now the markets for zero-emission light and heavy-duty vehicles, which is something that occasionally we may be forgetting. The Automotive Action Plan that the Commission put on the table early March was exactly about that. We are working, there were several actions mentioned in this action plan. We are trying to push them forward as quickly as possible, because this plan means, first and foremost, to keep Europe's car makers, suppliers, and related service sectors innovative, competitive, and firmly anchored in Europe. One example of proposals included there is to increase flexibilities for meeting the 2025 target under the CO2 standard. We also propose to allow financial support from the European Globalization Fund to help companies before layoffs occur, and that's extremely important going beyond automotive sector. Because structural changes will be happening. They are underway in the automotive industry, and we need to find ways to support companies and support workers in those companies. We also are working now on actions that should improve and strengthen battery value chain under the battery booster package. We are looking at creating better conditions to push digitalization and automation in the sector, or on rolling out recharging infrastructure under the European Clean Transport Corridor Initiative. This initiative will specifically focus on fast-tracking the deployment of heavy-duty vehicle charging hubs in the Trans-European Transport Network as critical infrastructure. But also, what is very important in that context is that we are prioritizing the rollout of infrastructure based on the megawatt charging systems standard, the MCS standard. This approach is absolutely critical when it comes to the long-haul heavy-duty electric operators, because they need to have that security that they can operate efficiently with fast charging that supports demanding logistics operations across Europe. It will take time, but it's happening, and I really think that if we talk in 2-3 years, we will see a very different situation when it comes to that. But that brings me to another important element. It was mentioned in the Automotive Action Plan, and that concerns challenges with the grid. We need to have a better way of speeding up construction of recharging stations, especially when it comes to permitting. This is not something that is decided at Brussels level, it's decided at member states level, but I'm using every opportunity to talk to national governments about it. And for example, things like zoning regulations, which would that can be changed so that that we have explicit support for heavy-duty vehicles charging along those trans-European transport corridors, is one way to do that. And again, when it comes to grid, it's a question of access to grid, priority in access to grid. We need the electricity that will feed into those charging stations. But we also need to look into smart charging, which is essential when it comes to better management of demand, supporting grid stability. We are looking into the summer, and grid stability will be one of the things that we need to be aware of when hot weather hits parts of Europe. But also we want those vehicles to become energy assets through the vehicle to grid technologies. So we are about to launch a regulatory sandbox for those V2G pilots to look at what needs to be done in terms of regulations, technical requirements, and market challenges before large-scale deployment happens. So the reason I'm mentioning all those things is to really confirm to you that when we look at electrification of road transport, there are many elements that need to be falling in place and fast for that to happen. Of course, alternative fuels infrastructure regulation, which entered into force last year, is also very important, not only because it's an instrument from DG Move, but also because this is the instrument that should guarantee predictable deployment of charging infrastructure across the EU with clear technical specifications. But again, infrastructure is one thing, but we also still need innovation. And this is where your conference comes into play. Because when I go to events and when I see things that are being showcased, such as next generation battery chemistries, advanced thermal management, AI-based fleet optimization, advanced charging solutions, the innovation is still happening and can still allow, and not only to speed up, but also make solutions available at lower prices across the entire EU. And this entire EU dimension is important. We are faced with changes to global demand and production, economic shocks, geopolitical challenges, uncertainties. I don't need to tell you about any of that. The current discussions about tariffs are, of course, adding complexity. Tariffs are bad for business and even worse for consumers. So the EU will continue to seek negotiated solutions on that very topic, because we do want to safeguard the economic interests of our companies, but also to take care of our consumers and of our workers. There will be work ongoing when it comes to free trade agreements and international partnerships exactly for that. But also we'll be looking at what else can be added when it comes to conditions for foreign investments in the EU, that in such a way that those investments add value and build up new capacity that matters for the EU and for the workers and consumers in the EU. But again, all that just shows how complex and complicated and multi-sided world or reality of electrification and electric mobility is. And I know that, again, that was what you have discussed for those 3 days. So big thank you from my side. Apologies that I haven't been there. And hereby I do come to the end of my quite long intervention. But if you were in doubt whether I am among the believers, I hope that with the way I said things and what I said convinced you that I really am. So big thanks, and I look forward to seeing some, if not many of you around in Gothenburg or elsewhere. Thank you.
A warm thank you, Magda, for giving us your time this afternoon. A clear message. Magda, DG Move, the European Commission, is a believer. Yeah. They have a plan, and they're putting things into action to support the growth of this ecosystem, from vehicles to charging to batteries to more. So that's a brilliant message.
I think so, yeah.
And we're going to move straight on to our next speaker, who's here in the room, and it's very much linked with the car you see alongside us, which we've both discussed. It's my pleasure to welcome on stage Shunsuke Shigemoto, Vice President of e-Powertrain Technology, Advanced Research and Engineering from Nissan. A warm round of applause.
Okay, hello everyone. Can everyone hear me? Is it okay? Good, thank you, thumbs up. So thank you for the introduction and thank you for having me. It is an honor to be here on stage. It is just the day after our brand new Leaf was launched. We are super excited about the car. So today I want to talk about the car and why it's so significant for Nissan's strategy moving forward. Okay. Okay, so the Leaf legacy. So we are celebrating 15 years from the first generation Leaf launch. So the first generation Leaf was the first vehicle to have a lithium-ion battery to power the car. We did extensive research and also we did extensive development to get the manufacturing process right and to ensure the quality. We have a very safe track record. So from the first generation Leaf to the second generation Leaf and on to the third generation Leaf, we have this very proud history of safety. So we have sold 700,000 cars globally, and we have sold 290,000 cars of the 700,000 here in Europe. We have been able to save 1.9 billion of CO2 if we were to run ICE instead of that, and we have 1 million plus EVs on the market. So this is a portfolio. What will it look like at the end of 2026? So we have Ariya, we have the Nismo Ariya, and then we have commercial vehicles. We have launched to date the new Nissan Leaf, and then we also have the Micra, which was in the Atrium. We are also going to have the Juke coming out next year, and we will also be launching an A-segment car, which we announced with Renault. So by the end of 2026, we will have a full lineup from A-segment to all the way to commercial vans. Why is this so significant? So we have two major goals as Nissan. One is carbon neutral by 2050, and then also we have another target, which is zero fatality by 2050. We have our North Star, or interim target at Ambition 2030, which we announced 3 years ago. The three pillars being the acceleration of electrification, as you see on the left side of your screen. And then we also are introducing more AD ADAS technology, so we can create more accessibility to our customers. And then we also have V2G, which we'll talk about later on. So the all-new Leaf. So as you can see, it's a very different car compared to the outgoing Leaf, and I want to talk about that. So there are 5 bullet points that are on your screen. I won't read them out loud. The concept of this car is that we had this vision that a family going on an 800-kilometer road trip will achieve the same kind of journey duration, time, compared to our Qashqai e-Power or our Qashqai internal combustion engine. So roughly maybe 5 minutes or 10 minutes slower, but including charging, resting, so on, the new Leaf to achieve that. What do we do? So we improve the electrical efficiency, so we have better range. And then we improve the thermal management. So now we have an integrated thermal management, so we can have consistent battery charging. So the bigger battery will bring 150 kilowatt of battery charging, but with a quite stable charging curve, and also to hit that 150 kilowatt mark, regardless of cold, hot. We have done extensive tests, and we are very confident that this performance will be appreciated by our customers. Then we also worked on aerodynamic efficiency. Of course, aerodynamic efficiency is very important when you're cruising at high speeds. So 130 kph, you would reach around 330 kilometers with this car. So that's around 2.5 hour driving. With the family, I assure you, I have kids. and they will get bored after 2 hours, 2.5 hours. So you have to rest. You charge maybe 30 minutes. And WLTP figures, or the certification method, you would gain 400 kilometers. So if that's high-speed driving, that's another 300 kilometers. So our vision was to go on and on and on and have consistent charging. To also enable that and enhance that experience, we've built in the Google built-in. So that enables us to give more precise, accurate suggestions to the customers, intelligent route planning. So hassle-free and very accurate. So the new Leaf is produced in the UK in Sunderland. Right across the road is actually our new battery plant with ASC. And within that industrial compound, we also produce the 3-in-1. So it is a very compact footprint of an industrial basis that we have. And into the future, we want to bring more and more suppliers into this area. So we want to achieve carbon neutrality not only by driving the car, but also producing the car itself. So integration into the society. So we have brought in V2L technology and also V2G technology. If you look back to the first generation of Leaf, we already had vehicle to home. So this connectivity outside to the car is in the DNA of the Leaf. And we have now introduced vehicle to load technology and also vehicle to grid technology. Vehicle to load is very important, especially from where I'm from, especially in Japan, because unfortunately we have natural disasters, and in an event of an earthquake or typhoon or whatever, power cut does occur. And at home, you don't have a generator at home. So these vehicle to load technologies is very well accepted in these kind of situations. Now, here in Europe, depending on where you live, natural disasters may or may not occur. But of course, this technology could be used for camping, any other purposes as well, not just for emergency purposes. The vehicle to grid is a technology that we are working on, and we are going to be launching this service from the UK in 2026. Now, this is very significant because, again, the Leaf was only powering the home. Now we want to feed back to the grid. This is significant for the customer because we hope that this is going to save the energy tariff on a monthly basis. But we also want to bring it as a societal motivation. The UK has many renewable electricity or green electricity in the grid today. And chief among is wind, and then also we have solar power. The issue is that if the grid is going to rely more and more on these renewables, the stability becomes an issue. And we think that the EV plays a significant role. Instead of building a static, big-scale ESS, all the cars in the market that do have V2G could become a mobile, but an ESS function, energy storage function. So it could stabilize the grid. So instead of investing further with taxpayers' money or somewhere, we think that the car, since the electrification is going to move forward, could contribute to this. And then we are also looking into the battery second life as well. So we are going to be recycling our batteries. That's why having the vehicle plant and also the battery plant in the same location matters. But what we're working on is how to collect all those batteries. If the battery is healthy, we want to give it a second life. And some of it is already in some of the energy storage system that's built in Europe. But we are also looking into how we can also use the battery, if it's still healthy, to the end of its life in the required system, and then bring it into the recycle process. We are also on track with the innovation of batteries. So the Leaf today you see actually has a smaller or shorter vehicle length than the Leaf, and also a shorter wheelbase than the outgoing Leaf. But we were still able to package a 75 kilowatt-hour battery. So the outgoing Leaf had only 60 kilowatt-hour. Today's technology of battery brings us to 75. But we want to challenge ourselves more with a solid-state battery, so we can minimize the battery volume inside the car and create more space for the passengers, or create a smaller car with greater distance. We are on track, and by 2028, the plan hasn't changed. We want to put a car with a solid-state battery in the market. So, my final slide. So, we strongly believe that the future is EV and also electrified powertrains. And we know that the 2035 is coming to the horizon. It's less than 10 years, or 10 years. So normally the vehicle life is around 7 to 8 years. When we are entering the final phase of this brand new Leaf, it is almost like the eve of 2035. And we believe that this new Leaf will contribute to our electrification strategy significantly. The all-new Leaf will take our pioneering model to our next level. So as I said, this will bring a compelling package, because you could travel almost 800 kilometers, give or take more or less 5 or 10 minutes slower than the average e-Power you see today, but it's still 5 or 10 minutes. And then we will continue to build our global ecosystem for mobility and beyond, chief among V2G at home. And then, of course, we will be looking into destination V2G and so on. So thank you once again for listening. Our car is in the atrium, if you have not seen it. The door is open, the power is on. Please feel free to touch and have a feel of the new car. We are very excited. And I would also like to thank you for the Secretary for inviting us and allowing us to present this new model today. Thank you once again.